Hello, welcome to Alyssa Jean's Reviews. My name is Alyssa, and you are watching my review for The Witcher Season 2. So The Witcher Season 2 was just dropped on Netflix about a week ago as of this recording, and I just finished my binge of the 8 episodes. So what I'm going to do here is a overall thoughts on it first, and that part will be spoiler free in case you haven't seen it yet. You can get my overall thoughts spoiler free, and then I'm going to get into spoilers. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through each of the 8 episodes in 2 minutes or less for each episode. Set your timers. It'll be 2 minutes or less for each of the episodes, just a speed review for each one, and then I will give my overall rating for the season as a whole. Now we'll start with kind of my overall feelings and thoughts on this season. So I watched season 1 first, did a rewatch of it because I hadn't seen it in a couple years. I wanted to make sure I remembered everything. So I watched season 1 and season 2 back to back. And in doing so, it is very clear to me how much Season 2 has improved over Season 1 and how they have kind of worked out some of the kinks. It's kind of what I'm hoping that Wheel of Time Season 2 will do as well, work out some of the kinks. I did overall like the disjuncted timelines in Season 1, but it was a little bit confusing upon first viewing, and you have to kind of guess by context. And I think the main thing that I like better about Season 2 over Season 1 is that Season 2 gets more to the point. Season 1 was more episodic. There was more Monster of the Week type stories, whereas there's a little bit of a Monster of the Week feel to a couple of the episodes here. They always tie in to the main storyline. So this was more to the point. This was more serialized and it's just cleaner. It was a lot cleaner the way it was done. And we spent an entire season with our 2 primary characters, Geralt and Ciri, being separated. And then this year they are together for the whole season. And then, of course, in the end we get Yennefer, our other primary character, coming in, and the 3 of them being together, and that's when I really love the show the most, when the 3 of them got to be together and the dynamics between the 3. And Jaskier was less annoying this season. He doesn't even come in until episode 4. There's 3 whole episodes that he's not even in it, and I kind of like him more as the disgruntled sort of drunkard. He was a little less innocent, so a little less annoying. So he didn't even bother me this season as much as he did in Season 1. So overall, a step forward for this show, and I still think there is even more room to improve. So I can't wait for Season 3. I hope it doesn't take another 2 years, but it might. Anyways, so let me now jump in to the episodes. Each of the 8 episodes in a 2 minute or less speed review. I'll start with episode 1. Okay, we start with episode 1, A Grain of Truth, featuring Tormund Giantsbane. I forget the actor's name. We heard that he was going to be in Season 2. And here he is. This one is a little bit of a Monster of a Week type deal. This is actually a story that I did read in The Last Wish. I read most of The Last Wish, but not all of it. But that was one of the early stories in that book, if I remember correctly. And of course, Ciri isn't in it in the book, and they modified it a little bit, but it's basically based off of a story in that book. So I thought they did an excellent job with it on screen, and most importantly, they did an excellent job of reintroducing us to this world and showing us the beginnings of Geralt and Ciri's relationship and how it gets off to a little bit of a rocky start. And I do have to admit, I thought at first that they recast Siri. Like, I thought that they showed the old actress in the very first scene when they go to the battle scene looking for Yennefer, and then they recast her with a new actress because she looks so different. But it is still Freya Allen, and Freya Allen is fantastic throughout the season, by the way. It's just her eyebrows. I think it's her eyebrows and her hair, and she's probably a little bit older as well. I don't know how old she was in season 1, but I think she's gotten a little older. And she's very pretty in this season. I really like her acting as well. So overall, I would say a very strong start to the new season. Got me engaged immediately and ready to be involved in where we are heading for season 2. All right, so now we get into episode 2, Carmarin. I might be pronouncing that incorrectly. I don't remember exactly how you pronounce it, but it is, of course, the home of the Witchers. And this was referenced in season 1, but we really get to spend a lot of time there in season 2. And that was a surprise to me. I didn't think we would spend a whole season there. And I'm glad that we did. And I thought that this was a very strong introduction to that world. You get a little bit of the typical, what's this little girl being here? But those characters will grow on Siri after a while, and they will get used to her. The most assholey one, of course, gets turned into a tree monster and dies. And this also introduces the mystery of these weird monsters that Gerald is not familiar with, and that starts him solving that mystery. But I love the introduction of all of these characters. And this is also, I believe, if I remember correctly, the episode where Yennefer goes with Fringilla and the elf queen to, or I don't know if she's a queen, but the leader of the elves, and meets that witch, and they do a little bit of a devil's bargain there. And here we're introducing our main villain for the season, and those were all very creepy scenes. And I don't remember, I think this was the episode where it ends with Yennefer freeing the dude from Nilfgaard and then going off with him. And that was very interesting to me. I was not expecting that at all. So I'm already finding Yennefer's storyline to be a little bit interesting. It is the one that is disjointed for much of the season, but then, as I mentioned in the top, they do all come together at the end. Okay, now we get into season 2, episode 3, What is Lost. Actually, I think this is the episode where at the end Yennefer frees what's his nuts. He goes running off. But regardless, I think that the Yennefer storyline is interesting. I just can't really keep track of what was in what episode with her, because I'm basically trying to remember based on the descriptions, and doesn't say anything about Yennefer in the descriptions. But this is also the episode where Ciri keeps going through that brutal obstacle course. Oh my god. But she really wants to prove herself and keeps getting up. This is also when and Gerald is starting to put more of the pieces together. And honestly, this one I found to be, it's not memorable, if I'm being perfectly honest. So a little bit of a slowdown after the first 2 episodes, which I thought were very strong starts to the season. But it's still not bad. We're still getting more into character stuff. We're getting more about Ciri. So not a terrible episode by any means. Okay, now we get into episode 4, Rodian Intelligence. So we get Triss coming back to Carmarin and meeting up with Gerald again. And I love that. I love that we get to see her reunite with Gerald, because they were together in 1 episode last season, and we've since seen her interacting a lot with the Brotherhood and with the other witches and with Yennefer and all of that stuff. So I love that she goes there and spends some serious time there and reconnects with Gerald and is introduced to Ciri, and at first is willing to be a mentor for Ciri. Now is the next episode where she gets a little alarmed by Ciri, but I love that they brought her in to the fold here. And then we also get that fucking creepy dumbass I hate that wizard in a good way. I hate that character. The wizard in Redania, the bald dude who talks to the owl all the time, and he's scheming, and this is when he decides to send off that elf that Ciri met from season 1 to go spy for him. But what was more interesting than that was just sort of, well, whatever, moving, we got to move the story forward type of thing. But actually, one of the more interesting storylines in this particular episode for me was Yennefer on the run. And meeting up with those two guys in the sewer. And that deaf guy gets killed. It's so sad. And the other guy just runs away. I hate that guy. But this is also our return of Jaskier. And as I said in the top, I like this version of Jaskier a little better. He was really obnoxious to me in the first season. But this is not too bad. And I really enjoyed this episode overall. Okay, so we get into episode 5, Turn Your Back. I really like this one a lot. I love that Gerald finally gets to interact with Isrid. His name is Isrid. I think Istrid. The dude who very first met Yennefer way back in season 1, and they both share this common previous love of Yennefer and yearning for her. So I think it's great that these two characters finally connect, and of course Geralt learns that Yennefer is still alive in this episode. And I'm very intrigued at this point by this mystery of the monolith, and Geralt assuming that those monsters have lived down there, but apparently they're coming in from another dimension or another sphere. As Geralt will say later on in the season, and all of that stuff was very fascinating to me. We also get the introduction of this other witch who hires the dude who makes fire, and she says she doesn't work for Nilfgaard, and they never tell us who her employer is. I think they keep that a secret up through the end of the season. You see him and her at the end of the season talking to this mysterious person, but it is not Ciri's dad, because he's the Emperor Nilfgaard, so it's some other mysterious person. Maybe it's Ciri's mom. Also, I really was intrigued by the scene with Triss taking Ciri into her mind, and how she said, oh, this isn't how it's supposed to go. Well, how is it supposed to go? I'm really curious about that. Very, very creepy. Her mom was creepy as fuck in this scene. Her mom kept recognizing her. So very effectively creepy scene. And overall, I'd say to this point in the season, this would be my favorite episode. Okay, then we get into episode 6, Dear Friend. Very exciting scene at the beginning with Geralt and Ciri and that monster. And then they go to what I'm going to call the Brunis Monastery. So Geralt can get another opinion on Ciri. And I haven't mentioned yet the mystery of Ciri and her power, and which is tied into the mystery of the monoliths. And all of that was very intriguing for me. I was very hooked following that mystery all throughout the season. This is a big episode because we get Yennefer and Geralt reunited. Of course, Geralt at this point does not know that Yennefer is up to no good. I think he suspects something, and he always suspects something of her, which is wise of him to do so. And I haven't really much mentioned the scene with Nilfgaard and the elves. That's still an ongoing thing. What's His Nuts has, by this point, returned to something sort of a say. That dude has returned to Nilfgaard, and tensions are rising between him and Frangilla. And I don't remember when. I think this might have been when the baby was born. And that's when the elves are just like, yeah, see y'all. We'll need you all anymore. That relationship was never going to last. Anyway, I think it's the Yennefer reuniting with Gerald stuff, and the fire guy finding Gerald for a very exciting scene at the end. That all makes this episode really good for me. All right, now we get into season 2, episode 7, Volfmere, and we get the reunion of Gerald and Jaskier. And you know what? I really liked this. I really enjoyed seeing these two characters back together. As I said, Jaskier really annoyed the crap out of me in season 1. But I like him here. I like how Gerald finally says to him, sorry. And he's like, oh yeah, you can never stop talking. And does an impersonation of him. And he's like, I did a great impersonation of you. And he did. I love the interactions between these two, much more so than I did in season one. And then we have Yennefer running off with Ciri, and she's starting to realize how powerful Ciri is. And I love the teleport scene. Like, all of a sudden, they're just on the other side of the waterfall. And Yennefer's like, whoa, this bitch's got some fucking power. And she's also I think she's starting to regret what she's doing. I think she's starting to figure out that, maybe it's not a great thing. She, of course, I don't know if I mentioned this previously, but she, of course, is trying to turn her into the witch so that she can get her powers back. Not a good idea. And I think this might have also been the episode where Fringilla does that really fucking terrifying thing where she freezes everybody and like pokes that dude's eye out. I mean, I didn't like that dude, but good God. That was just creepy as fuck. So that is setting up for her to really take power play. By the way, I haven't mentioned her much in these little 2-minute reviews, but I actually really love Fringilla this season and how she's really taken a step forward. Last season, she was just kind of more of a mustache twirly villain, and this season, I think she's a much more interesting character. All right, now we get into the finale, episode 8, Family, not to be confused with the Next Generation episode of the same name. I thought this was a really great finale. I'm glad that we didn't need to have another one of those big epic battle type situations that we had at the end of season 1, and then the Wheel of Time season 1 had to have one of those things too. But this was action-packed. It was exciting. It was full of action without having the big Trolloc army or the big troll army or whatever attacking somebody. I absolutely loved this showdown, and it's so creepy how the witch had taken control of Ciri, and we started to get the revelation that Ciri can freaking open up portals to other worlds. Holy shit! And then, of course, they end up going to another world, and Yennefer gets her powers back by sacrificing, or at least attempting to sacrifice herself for Ciri, and that's what gives her powers back. I thought that was very nice. Geralt says, Geralt says you're not forgiven, but I think those wounds are going to start to heal again. So absolutely love the ending for all of these characters, and I'm very intrigued by the ending that the Emperor is her father. I feel like I might have predicted that when I first saw it in season 1, because the Emperor has been a mysterious figure all throughout. But that does explain how they knew about Ciri's powers. And so now we've got all of these different groups, the elves included, and this mysterious person who's hired the fire wizard and the other witch who now has her face all burnt off. They are all going after Ciri, so we're really setting up for a very exciting season 3, so I thought this was an extremely effective finale to do that. Alright, here we go to wrap things up, and I'll give my rating. And I think that the last episode review went 2 minutes and 1 second. Sue me. I went over by 1 second on one of them. I think I did really good on the rest of them. So let me give my rating overall for The Witcher Season 2. And just kind of the more I think on it, the more I think that I am going to raise my initial reaction of a rating from 8 up to a 9. I'm actually giving Witcher Season 2 a 9. I actually really love this season. I thought it was a very strong season, seeing the two main characters together finally. It was much more streamlined than season 1, much more simplistic, much more to the point, and much more interesting. It has a lot of interesting serialized plots going on here, and especially with the monoliths and the interdimensional or interplanetary travel that is happening in Ciri's powers, and the fact that she has the power to open portals to other worlds is crazy. So I love this season. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 and very excited for season 3. Okay, that does it for my review for The Witcher Season 2. Please check out all of my reviews for The Wheel of Time. I will also be doing a live discussion on The Wheel of Time on Monday, December 27th at 4 p.m. West Coast time, 7 o'clock East Coast time with my brother Mark from Enchantment of Eternity. I'm also covering Star Trek, Star Wars, MCU, all of this other stuff. So check all that out and please subscribe, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.